Awesome.
That's clutch timing. It's hard to get them to do that.
Yeah, it might end soon though, because he's been out for like an hour, so we'll see.
So we'll get through this quick. We'll give you plenty of time to go and feed and whatever else you got to do over there.
Yeah, no, they're good. She's a good mama.
Yeah. Awesome. So I guess we probably should just start from the beginning, kind of do a complete do-over.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So why don't you just, kind of get into it, and we'll just talk about, well, number one, you were on with us last time and you were a little bit frazzled and hazed because you got a baby coming due, and now you've had the baby. Brady Carter, right?
Yep.
Is that a Tom Brady thing?
No, we're not really. I'm not actually a big sports fan. I think that he's a great player, but it was just a name that we both liked and we both agreed upon as a name. It's just we went over every single name. We went down like a book of like hundreds of names. Our last son, we knew we wanted to name him Wyatt. We came up with that pretty quickly. We decided on that, but for this one, we had a little trouble. She had a name she liked, I had a name I liked, and we had to just find something that we both agreed on.
Yeah. I just had that problem with naming my dog like 2 years ago. It was a process, but we got a good name from now, so everything's cool. And I like the name Brady until Tom Brady, but he is a great quarterback anyway.
I'm such a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan that I couldn't resist,
Yeah. Oh.
My brother is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, so I hear it nonstop.
Really? I was teaching at my gym the other night, and somebody asked me that about Tom Brady, and I said, no, I'm just a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. And someone's like, oh, really? And they started asking me about it, and I was like, no, I'm just joking. Like, I don't even – I couldn't name any other players on the team.
Yeah. Well, listen, so why don't we start talking about, a little bit about your history, how you got started in wrestling and how it kind of transitioned over to MMA, and go from there.
Yeah. So basically my story is my whole life I've been fascinated with martial arts and fighting in some capacity. When I was a kid, all my favorite cartoon was Ninja Turtles, and I loved Ghostbusters, and just like anything with action was something that just naturally interested me. I had my family had to watch out for manholes because I would try to go down manholes and be in the sewer like the Ninja Turtles.
Oh man, you really love Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, and my favorite actors, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone. I loved all their movies. I saw all their movies. Sure. Even as a kid, I think Bloodsport was one of my favorite movies and when I was young. So I've always been kind of fascinated by fighting. And another thing that I really loved was professional wrestling. And I would watch like the WWE, WCW, all that stuff back in the day. And one of my neighbors, we used to just wrestle in the backyard, and he's like, oh, I'm going to join the wrestling team in high school. And I was like, oh, that actually sounds like fun, because I played soccer and I played baseball. Of course I played baseball. I was born with one hand. Not everyone saw that right away. It's not really, it's not who I am. It's part of who I am. But anyway, growing up, I idolized Jim Abbott, and he was like the only other one-handed person I ever saw in my life, because the internet wasn't really around like that. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be like him. So I played baseball, but I wasn't as good as him at it. I was good. I made the all-star team because I'm super competitive, but when it came to like high level stuff, I was just mediocre at best. And my heart wasn't in it. So I was watching wrestling, and I was like, you know what? My dad always tried to get me into wrestling. He wrestled like a year or two in high school. Nothing serious, but he liked it. But he's a degenerate. He's a good guy now, but he'll admit it himself. He wishes he took it more serious and didn't have so many distractions. So I joined the wrestling team because I liked professional wrestling. And
Were you disappointed when you got to the high school team and you found out you weren't jumping off any third level ropes and hitting people with chairs in the head?
Well, the thing is, by that time I was 14, so I knew that it was scripted. But
Hey, Nick, we've had kids come to our gym who were 14 and thought they were going to do WWE. So it's it's not off the table.
What I'll say is that I just didn't know the rules.
Right.
So I was like, oh, you can't submit people? I really thought that you could do submissions, and I already thought I was going to get people in the sharpshooter.
Great. That's great.
So anyway, I joined, and I'm like, wow, there's this is completely different from what I thought. I did absolutely no research. I went and wrestled when I was younger a few times, but I didn't really like it because I wanted to play soccer and baseball. But I didn't remember really. So I started wrestling, and everyone on the team kicked my ass. Except there was one other kid on the team that I would scrap with that was new too. So I was kind of grateful to have him on the team. And I kind of trained with him a little bit and took my licks and basically got destroyed the whole time. I think I lost my first 17 matches. And I picked up 6 wins in there because I was 103 pounder and I got a lot of forfeits.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll say I started off 6-17, but really I was 0-17. And then I won 2 in a row. And I was like, okay, this feels good. I finally got those wins, and I was like, you know what? This is something I can get behind. I like the way this feels. And then I lost, I think it was right before states. So I went to SWCs. I had one more match. I lost that. And then I lost my next 2 at SWCs, and I lost my next 2 at states. But I finished with a nice 2-22 record. And instead of quitting and being like, this isn't for me, I actually decided to stick with it. I had a friend on the team, Pete Pensavenga, that motivated me to wrestle in the off season and join Atlas with Coach Saris. I mean, the choice was I could either continue to wrestle and get better, and who knows. My goal was to place in the SWCs by my senior year. So I kept training. I trained with Coach Saris. I trained at Atlas Club, and I would run and do all this stuff and lift, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just doing my own lifting, but it was something. And I came back, and the next year I placed in SWC. So I got my senior year goal in my sophomore year.
So most kids in that situation, losing 17 in a row, a ton of them would have quit before they got to 17. And you didn't. You finished up with 17 losses. You had 2 legitimate wins, and you finished the season. And I know Pete encouraged you to come, but there was something more inside that made you want to stick with it than just Pete. I mean, to go through what we all know it takes to become a better wrestler. Training with Andy down there, and putting in the runs and putting in the lifts and putting in the work. There must have been something more that burned inside of you that kept you going.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing that was very motivating for me. Growing up, my family, they never told me what to do. I never had any pressure to be something or live up to someone's expectations or do anything like that. No one in my family ever really played sports or anything like that. I was really the first one to try it out. And I would go out and I would wrestle these matches and I would lose. And my coach would absolutely flip out on me and yell, you should have won that. You could have done, and I was like, oh man, he wasn't too hard on me, but to me, I was like, man, like this guy really expects me to win. Like he sees something in me. And that was Coach Schoon, who still coaches at Law now.
Sure.
So
I know him very well.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure. So I was like, man, he's like he's yelling at me. I'm like, okay, like this guy kind of believes in me. So I like that. I like that he was hard on me. I like the be tough attitude. Like, okay, I got to be tough. Like, I got to grind this. I got to be this guy. And I thought that all the guys on the team that were older than me, that were like good wrestlers and winning and like placing in states, I thought they were like really cool that I was like friends with these guys. I was like, oh man, I got some really tough friends. Like, of course they like made fun of me because I was like a geeky kid with a squeaky voice, but like they were still my friends, and they were still like nice to me and supported me and cheered me on. And I mean, I always grew up with friends. I wouldn't say like I grew up with no friends. I definitely had always had friends, but it was cool. I was like, oh man, like this is cool. Like I like being a part of this. And even when when I would lose but the team would win, I'd still feel like I won. So I was like, okay, I like this. But I want to win now. It's my turn to give something back to this team and be good at this. So we went from there, and I ended up having a winning record every season after that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. So it was the team camaraderie and feeling part of something bigger than you, and wanting to give back. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I have like we can get to it later, but I have some records. I think I have. If somebody that knows wrestling can look up these records later, I want to know if anyone has beaten it.
Well, we could look at CT Wrestling, the history book, and they have a lot of information. I don't know if they have every information you're looking for, but they have a lot of information.
You know that I have
does a great
the
job.
most matches. I have the record for the most matches my senior year.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anyone's ever had more matches than me in a wrestling season.
That's interesting, because most guys who have the most make it to
broken now.
finals
He's up in the 60s now. They're up in the 60s and 70s. Some kids wrestle like up over 60 times in a year. How many? What you remember?
Not counting off season, there are over 60 matches, not including off season.
Well, I don't know if they include off season, but they'll include postseason. So if you go to national tournament, they'll count nationals, which could be 10 matches. So
Yeah.
those
So someone probably has me beat, but I had 63 matches. I went 53-10, and
That's a lot of matches, though.
Yeah.
I could have had I think I could have had, at the time I tied the state record, but I could have broken it if I didn't like bump up for hard matches.
Yeah.
If I played it safe and I was like, oh, I want to break the record, and I avoided certain people, I think that I could have had it, but I purposely went out of my way to have the harder matches to get ready for states, because my team was only like 8 people and I was the only senior, so I really had no one to train with. So what Coach Schoon did was he avoided or he made a schedule to where I would have 5 matches every weekend, so I could get my live goes in as actual matches.
Yeah, that's good. And is that something that I remember we talked a little earlier, that's something you carried on to college too, right? You just like fighting bigger guys, man. That's something you carried in college, right?
Yeah, well, I ended up wrestling at Western New England College. It's Western New England University now.
Yeah.
And I think like I'll never claim to be the best, but I always uh am down for a challenge, right? I'm down to try new things. I never minded going up a weight class, because really you go up a weight class, it's like you don't really have anything to lose. Like you can just go out there and lay it all on the line and try to beat these bigger guys, which I didn't mind at all. I was always actually pretty strong, so it wasn't a problem with me. So when I was in college, I did my first year at 149, and then sophomore year I was 157, but we had like 2 other 157s, and we were all relatively close in terms of skill. So it really depended on um, the style of matchup or how we were doing that week in practice, which one of us was going to go out for the match. So I was always down to bump up, and we had a pretty good 65 pounder and a good 74 pounder, but we had no 84 pounder or 97 pounder. So we had a backup 74 pounder that would wrestle 84 and 97. And I used to bump up to 65, and then we'd bump the 65 pounder up, and we bump everyone up. So I wrestled 65 a lot. Or I'd go against a 74 pounder, and the 74 pounder would go 84, and so on. But our 74 pounder that wrestled 97 had a close match with someone. So one day I told my coach, I was like, hey, I'd like to wrestle this guy. I think that I can beat him based on styles and how I wrestle. And I weighed in at 157 that day. And back then you could bump up as many weight classes as you want in college. It's just no one ever did it because they were afraid to get hurt. But for me, it was like I never knew if I was going to wrestle or not that day. So I was like, I'd rather just wrestle and go up a weight class. It's not a big deal. I train with big guys all the time. So I told him, and he told me I was stupid to sit down. And I told him that I'm gonna go. Oh, sorry, my cat. I told him I'm gonna go warm up and I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna get ready, and if you change your mind, let me know, and I'll be ready to go at this match, and I know I'm gonna win. So like something happened, and he got mad, and he looked over, and he's like, no, he's like, you better not. He said, you better not effing lose. And I said, I promise you, I won't. And I thought that I was gonna like kind of wreck this guy, and it ended up being a harder match than I thought, but I won by 2 points. You could look it up. It was in the Coast Guard Academy versus Western New England in 2006, 2007, one of those years. And then that same day, I wrestled 84 versus MIT, and I won that match too. So I won at 49 my freshman year. So that's 49, 57, 65, 74, 84, and 97. So I won college matches in
You might have the record for that. That might be a record that you have. And I got a feeling that it's like some people might have names for you like Nutty Nick, Crazy Nick. Like you just seem like you want the biggest challenges that most people don't even consider doing. Is that pretty accurate?
The truth was that, I mean, at the time, like I said, I was going to college. I was working my ass off, so I just wanted to have matches.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm training, I just want to have matches. So if you're not going to put me in on this, because I wrestled 57 almost every match of the season, but if you're going to send him in for this one or this one, I said, just send me in. Like, I'd rather just wrestle than forfeit. If we're going to forfeit the match because we don't have a guy in that weight class, like, you might as well just send me out there and I'll wrestle him and like try to beat him. And if at least if I don't get pinned, that's like less points,
Right.
but I'm going to try to win the whole time. So I think it was more of me just being a team player.
So so you clearly have a lot of dedication to one, just going out and doing it, right? Just going out and trying stuff, wanting to wrestle. And then you also are very committed to the team when it's not, some would say, that much of a team sport from time to time. Where do your goals come in personally? Like, how did you, obviously, if you didn't know if you were going to wrestle each week, you didn't even know what weight you were going to wrestle, how did you adjust your goals for the season or for week to week and kind of like keep your focus on maybe your personal prize that you had for yourself, or, what was that like?
It's kind of weird to say that, because in terms of motivation, I disappoint myself sometimes with some of the things and the decisions that I made. in terms of dedication. In high school, you could forget about it. I wasn't going out and partying or doing anything like that, or making any bad decisions or doing any of that. I was eating what I thought was healthy and doing this, and really just living the life that I needed to live to be the best wrestler. Sorry, I noticed like my hair's sticking up in the back.
It's all good.
It's a
So,
podcast.
yeah, I know, but I know I gotta switch it up. So I did those things that I needed to do to be to be uh to be the best, and I went from the 0-17 guy to, fourth in the opens. I would have placed in New England's, but I lost by like 1 point. So I was like, oh, I like this, but I kind of burnt myself out because there was nothing. There was no girls. There was no partying. There was nothing. I didn't do any of that. I did exactly what I needed to do and what I should have done. And then when I got to college, it was like I had like all this work to do, and it was kind of hard for me. I have really bad ADD, and I would kind of eat like crap, and I went to a few parties, and I just had like some distractions, but I was always tough, but I didn't put in the quality of work that I would have liked to. And then I think it actually helped me when I got older, because I graduated, and when my senior season ended, I was disappointed in myself, and I thought I could have done a little bit more. So I carried that energy over to mixed martial arts. And I said that this is something that I'm not going to take lightly. This is something that I'm going to take very serious, and I'm going to be the best that I can at this, and I'm going to dedicate all my energy, and I'm going to cut out all the BS and all the things that aren't beneficial to me, to make sure that I am great at this.
What was it like starting MMA after college? Were you back to be an 0-17 guy, or were you way more fluid and kind of taking off like a rocket? Because you were rock solid now, let me tell you.
Yeah. So uh, the I had my first fight in college, like right at the end, towards the end of my senior year. So right after wrestling season, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a fight. I went to fights, and I saw these guys. I'm like, I could beat these guys, So I started. I mean, I had been training in the off season just to do something, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to fight until I went to fights and saw some guys, and I was like, okay, I can beat them. So I asked my coach, what do I have to do to get a fight? Like, tell me what I have to do. And he told me everything I have to do, and I listened to it, and I did it. Um, I had a fight. The guy pulled out, and they told me the only way you could fight is if you move up a weight class.
Here we go again.
So
No.
I was like, you know what, man, I'll do it. Like, yeah, why not? It's an amateur fight. Who cares? So I went from 155 to 170, and I fought a guy that I was a white belt in jiu-jitsu, but he was a brown belt. So he was very, very good, very talented guy from Brazil, very good grappler. And I ended up losing a decision, but it was a good fight. And I was like, oh man. I was like, here we go again, right? I was like, I gotta do this again. I can't let people think I don't know how to fight. I can't just quit right now. So I ended up winning my next fight, and then there was an opportunity, even though I was only 1-1, to fight this one guy that nobody wanted to fight, because he was a good, like, I believe he placed in all states in Massachusetts, and he won his other fight by knockout. He's just like a hard hitter, and they're like, we'll make it for a title. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that then. I'll fight him, and I ended up submitting him in like 21 seconds, but he did slam me. So the wrestler in me wasn't proud, but the fighter in me was okay with it still. I shouldn't have gotten taken down. but but it was good. And then, at the time there were no athletic commissions, so I thought that I discussed with my coach that it would be a good idea to go pro before the athletic commission came in, because they might tell me like, oh, you can stay as an amateur, but you can't go professional. So I went and I turned pro, and it ended up being a good choice because I won my first 11 matches as a pro.
Were you thinking that, Nick, because of your hand?
Yeah, I thought that maybe they might give me a hard time. Um, I had like trouble finding opponents sometimes, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't an issue moving forward, and I didn't have to go through any unnecessary um, anything that was unnecessary. I wanted to prove myself before I had to prove myself, so no one could really say anything.
Did and people have notions or ideas or thoughts about what someone with so an abnormality would have. Did you find that it was hard to get opponents because going back to a few years back, same thing with our kids wrestling girls, right? If I win, I beat someone who didn't have two gloves on their hands, and if so I won, big deal. And if I lose, I lost to a guy who only has one hand. Was that a problem in trying to find good opponents?
Yeah, of course, it was hard to get people to fight me. And if you look at the beginning of my career, I was healthy the whole time, and I had big gaps in between fights because I couldn't find people to fight me. And then finally, actually, I was only 4-0 or 5-0. I think 5-0, and I got signed to a deal on TV. So once I started fighting on TV, it was like a lot easier to find opponents because people wanted to get that opportunity to fight on TV. And then once I started winning those fights, then that's when I started getting people actually calling me out. So that was good.
Yeah. And when you didn't have, like, when the opponents were, I wouldn't say ducking you, but when people didn't want to fight you, what that feel like? Did you get pissed off at that? Was that a motivator? Like, or you just, because you seem pretty cool with, like you said earlier, like having the one hand was never something that was really in your conscious. You just treat it like everything else. But did it anger you when people didn't fight you? Like what the hell, dude? Come and fight me. I'll kick your ass.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like beefing with people on the internet because I was like, that's stupid. I realized that I had a lot of improvements to do and a lot of things where I can improve and get better. And I know that you make your best improvements they say like champions are made in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
So in between fights is when you make those improvements and you get better. So I use that time to improve myself and get better and work on my skill. Even though I didn't have anything scheduled, I wasn't like, oh, I'll wait around. And then when you tell me I have a fight, I'll show up at the gym. I was in the gym every day, working hard, getting better, um, and just waiting for someone to agree to fight me. And it worked out because I had just more time to hone my skills.
Yeah.
So how does so you said you were obviously a little less focused in college, and then you said you come into MMA. What are your goal setting, like a statement goal setting? What is that like now? Do you do it yourself? Do you sit down with your coaches? Like, how do you plan out? Because now you probably don't have, I mean, obviously you have the baby now, like currently, but now in your career, you probably don't have as much downtime in between fights. You probably have fights scheduled. You got to sign the contracts. What's that process, goal setting, fight to fight, week to week like?
Well, I kind of have the power now, to be honest with you, in terms of certain decisions. I've mapped out, and I can decide when I want to fight. So I have my contract, and I can say when I'm ready and when I'm not. Like, Bellator's having a show at Mohegan Sun next week that I could have gotten on, but I chose not to because I wanted to get into a rhythm with my new son first, and I wanted to get into a pattern and figure out my training with that. In terms of my training, I mean, really, you're your own boss, so you have to decide who you want in your circle and who you want advising you and setting your schedule. But for me, it's been the same person since day one. My coach, Jeremy Lewashevsky, out of Fighting Arts Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts, I named my gym Fighting Arts Academy CT, which is in Connecticut, after him. So I talk everything over through him, and then I have obviously management that I talk to about certain things, and my other circle of coaches that I trust. I talk everything through with them before I make any big decisions, and it obviously my wife and my family always come first. So I have to it's very difficult actually figuring out a schedule that works for everyone, because no schedule honestly works for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Being that you're a father of two now, you own a gym, so you got to run the gym. You train yourself for your own fights. You're training other fighters. How do you, your husband? How do you manage that? What kind of process? How do you go about your planning of your day or your week or your month? How does that work for you?
So that's actually a great question. So I have um I have coaches that I hire. They are I guess my boss, but as in a coach, but also I run the gym. So I think it speaks actually volumes to who I bring in, because I trust them with my own career too. Like I wouldn't bring in people that I wouldn't want to learn from at my gym. And I teach class as well, and I work with people, and I uh I help people out, and I give private lessons to my students, but I also hire a staff that works with my guys. So I have my coaches that I've always had, but they're in Massachusetts, and I have a guy, Roger Denton.
You just muted yourself, Nick.
Nick, I think you're muted.
Yeah, you muted yourself.
Sorry, I got a phone call.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay. So I have a guy, Roger Denton, that he's good all around, understands the mixed martial arts game, 4th-degree black belt, very knowledgeable, very good technician, very good striking too, and isn't looking to compete. So he teaches alongside with me, and we split classes. And then for wrestling, I have a guy, Ryan Roddy, that he wrestled at Amity. He was a state open champ.
We know Ryan real well.
He's
Real well.
And
tough as nails.
someone keeps calling me. So he so he runs a wrestling program out of my gym, Fighting Arts Academy, and I trust him really well. My wrestling's gotten a lot better since working with him. And then I just try to pull from resources wherever I can get. If there's something or someone around that I think I can learn something from, I will. I humble myself and really try my best to learn and take what works and discard what doesn't.
So if we were to break down, like, let's say we brought you into a high school gym right now and you're talking to kids about time management, how would you describe the way that you manage your time? Because like we said, you have so many people that you rely on, but you also have a busy schedule. How do you piece it together? Do you sit down at the beginning of the month? Is it a week to week thing? If you were to tell like a 15-year-old kid who knows nothing, what would you tell him?
Well, I write a general outline out from when I'm going to train, and I have a certain amount of sessions I'd like to get in a week, but there's so many factors that go into it and so many things that change. So it is a basic outline that's year long, but there's changes week to week, obviously. But the thing that I don't get to do is I don't get to hang out with my friends anymore. um, I don't go out, I don't party, I don't.
Your friends are now
Your
9 pounds 8 ounces, and however big Wyatt is, those are your friends now.
Yeah, 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 and I'm okay with that. I actually enjoy that, and my friends will be there when I get older and my
Yeah,
kids get older. So that's not even something that I'm really worried about.
right.
I don't play video games or anything like that. I try to go to sleep as early as I can, and I just try to do everything the right way because right now I'm 34 years old and I don't know how much longer I'll have to live this kind of life and compete like this. So I want to make the best decisions that I can moving forward to accomplish more with my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you have, and it's good that you're young and you have the gym already, so you have something that you can continue to do for way past your fighting career. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I heard your answer. And it's got to be a pretty fluid schedule with all the things you have going on in your life. Um, are there certain things, when you're training, I'm sure that changes a little bit too, because you have to, when you have a fight coming up and the training gets more intense. I'm sure is there more of a written plan and more of a, I've got to get up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., whatever the number is. I got to get up at a certain time. I've got to get my road work in. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And so there's like change a little bit when that happens.
Um, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm gone every night, so I never get to have dinner with my family or like put my kids to bed. I do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that's 3 out of 7 days a week. So half the time I don't really get to do that. So it's important. What's important to me is balance, right? So I uh, I try to have breakfast with my family every day, so I don't start any of my training till 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. is always usually my sometimes 9, but usually 10 a.m. is when I have my first training session because my wife's job starts a little. She usually goes to work at 10. So we try to have like breakfast as our family thing, and then I'll fit in 2 or 3 sessions a day um, in between before I get home at 10 o'clock at night.
Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. So what of your gym, do you have any guys in there that you're training that you think are going to get to the top levels that have potential to be, something special in MMA?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've only been open 4 years, so and I just hired a full-time instructor, and we're really working hard on adding more staff and getting more members. And it's obviously all about balance and finding what works best for the team, and who are the best people to bring in and things to change. And we've gotten looks from the UFC and Contender Series before, and we've had guys fight in Bellator. But my first like homegrown guy that I have like built from the ground up type guy is hitting the scene right now. He just signed a big contract with CES to start as a pro. A guy named Eddie George. He was a state runner-up in South Carolina his junior year, and then got injured his senior year. So he didn't get to wrestle his senior year, and he just turned pro. So I've only had him for like 3 years. So he's still very new, very raw, but he's a great wrestler, and he's been knocking everyone out.
Good. That's a good combination. If you can get on the mat and you can knock people out, I think that's pretty potent stuff right there.
Yeah.
So what about you, Nick? I know you turned down the Bellator opportunity. What's next on your horizon? When are you looking to fight again? And I know you have the baby now, but what's your plan?
Yeah, so sorry, I lost it.
It's all good.
Thing.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we
Okay.
hear you fine. Yeah.
Cool. I I got a I got a I talk with the matchmaker from Bellator all the time. He's very cool, Rich. We find a lot of the same things funny. So aside from business talk, We just chat like casually about things like, and don't talk business. But I did talk business with him the other day, and obviously I have people that handle a lot of stuff for me, but I told him October I should be ready. I'm in decent shape right now. I'm training all the time. If you gave me a month, I could be ready. You know, it's just I don't I want to enjoy this time with my family a
Yeah.
little bit before I just jump right back in.
As you should.
Yeah, so it's cool. So, one of the things that we ask almost everybody, and usually Travis takes it, but I'm taking it this time. We have this thing that we refer to as a badass bag. And what we mean by that is something that you've overcome, whether it's, for Travis, it was going to J-Rob for 30 days as a young kid, right? Once he accomplished that, when he had other challenges, he looked back and say, this challenge is hard, but hey, I made it through J-Rob. I can make it through this. So, what in your life have you accomplished, or what do you feel is part of in your badass bag, where you can look back and go, dude, this is a tough dude coming up, but I've already done this. I've already faced this, and you've already told us a bunch of things. Like I wrestled 40 pounds above my weight class. That could be one. But what's your main thing in your bad aspect that you can always reach back in and say, I did that. I can beat anything else that's coming my way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through the trenches. You know, not even, as you guys know, not even always like what you said for Travis, like that was practice. You know, that was a camp, and I know all about J Rob, and you got to be next level tough to do something like that. So for me, it's like you've been through hell in practice. You've done this. I've been beat up, tossed around, down. Like I lost my first 17 matches. Like you said, I bumped up weight classes. But man, like the things people don't see, the things that we do in practice is what builds the character. And you've been through the trenches. And I guess one thing that kind of annoys me is different people have different idea of what actual hard work is. But when I've been out there scrapping side by side with some of the best guys in the world for a long time, I think I have a pretty damn good idea. If you go to J-Rob, you know that all the best wrestlers in the country go there, and you're doing the same stuff as them. And I fought Justin Gagey, who's a UFC champion right now, and we had a good fight. Like he won, but it was a good fight. So, I mean, I've trained with the best guys in the world, and I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I can do. It just comes down to me finding that balance and between family and business and a whole bunch of other things that I have going on that younger people don't necessarily have going on, all these distractions in their life. So I know that I can do it, and I know what I'm capable of. It's just going out there and getting it done. And I've done it before, and I can do it again.
Who's the coach that whooped your butt the most? 'Cause you said practice, and I know a lot of times when we're younger, we don't control practice, right? You control practice now that you're a coach and a professional, but growing up, we don't control practice. This guy right here was always beating my butt in practice. So who really pushed you to that limit?
Do you need me to watch him? Okay. So
Yeah, we're pretty much done. We're 2 minutes.
yeah, no, it's fine. Here, I'll get him. 1 second. 1 second. Come here. Look, you want to say hi? Say hi. Wave hi.
That's Wyatt, right?
Yeah, that's Wyatt.
Why you
So
don't
I well, obviously, like Coach Schoon used to beat me up. I was little, but like I didn't really wrestle him that much because he was so huge. But when I got to college, my coach Aniba Nieves, who was an Olympian for Puerto Rico, he the first time we wrestled, I think I caught him off guard, and I hit a takedown on him, and then for the rest of the season, I never took him down once again. and he definitely didn't go easy on me and wasn't sleeping on me. So I got my butt whooped by him pretty much any time that we wrestled, and that was always a fun experience because he was such a great coach and such a great guy and such a good mentor. It stinks that I only had him for one season, but it's it definitely that was probably my best coach whooping.
So we'll do one more question. We'll let you get out of here. The family's all awake now. Everybody's
I
up.
have one question first, though, Trev. When does Wyatt get in the gym?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's already ready. Wyatt, you know about punch and takedown, right? We do takedown. He does a takedown and he moves to the right to mount, which is a jiu-jitsu position, but he goes right for the pin.
That's awesome.
Boy, always score first, Wyatt. Always score first.
And Coach Roddy's excited to get him in. He's like, oh, that's my guy. And speaking of coach, coaches, he puts it on me all the time. So I'm always scrapping with him, and we have some good goes.
Yeah, Ryan's a tough kid, tough guy. We've known him. He wrestled at my tournament for 4 years in a row, and we coached against him.
When I was training for New England's my senior year, I went up and I was wrestling again. I was a 170 pounder and I was wrestling a 215, and then Roddy, who was 20 something years old at that time, probably 50 pounds heavier than me, almost 220 pounds, and I was in there just beat up by a 3-time New England champion and Ryan Roddy, and it was one of the worst days I've ever had in my life. That gym was terrible.
And he'll foot sweep you
from anywhere.
If you get tired, you're getting foot swept.
So we'll do one last question. We'll let you get out with the fam. So we always, every athlete has a backpack, a literal backpack, right? We talked about badass bag, that's metaphorical. A literal backpack. What is the most important or the most interesting thing that you have in your backpack?
Well, I mean, I own a gym, so I have a locker at my gym that I keep everything in. But
even when you're in college or high school, whatever.
It doesn't be today. Just as an athlete, what was what you always needed in your bag? Always had it.
I always thought it was important to, shower right after practice, so I always had all my stuff and a full change of clothes. But nothing, no weird quirks like baby powder or something like that.
First time we've ever heard soap. We've never heard soap before.
We never heard soap before. No, we've heard lots of stuff. We haven't heard soap before. I'm making a list of all these things. I'm keeping them. So.
Are you?
Yeah. So Nick, listen, that was a great talking to you. Love to get down to your gym and just check it out. I mentioned to you a little bit that I do some mental performance coaching, and I would love to kind of maybe either do it a Zoom or talk to some of your wrestlers and just give them a little insight as to how they can train the mental part of their game in addition to everything you guys are teaching them. So maybe we can talk offline a little bit about that and maybe do some work with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to have you in and have you come talk to the guys and then once we get the okay from the government, right, we can start scrapping a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm a little too old for the scrapping, but we'll get Travis down to scrap with you guys.
Yeah, you can come by and show some technique.
There you go. There you go. All right, well, sounds good. Go enjoy your family. Thank you so much, Nick. And I'll email you, let you know when this podcast is going to go live, and we'll give you some time to promote it and promote your gym. If you want to give everybody a little promotion right now, let people know where your gym is and how they can get in touch with you, and maybe you get some guys from here to kind of popping by your gym and joining.
Yeah, so my gym is Fighting Arts Academy CT or Nick Newell's Fighting Arts Academy, whichever one you look up. And it's in Milford, Connecticut, 333 Quarry Road. We offer kickboxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, fitness classes, and also we're starting a wrestling club, Regulators Wrestling Club, and we're starting up soon, so we're gonna get into that as well.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
All right, well, good luck with everything, and we'll talk to you soon, Nick.
And let us know if you're taking that fight in October, because we want to watch it.
We'll come.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, we want to support all of our guys, man. We appreciate you being on this podcast, man. So we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
All right, pal.
All right, buddy. See you later.